if you just apply AI on top of unstable foundation, you will have very, very limited upside. The thing what you can accomplish as a software engineer is limited to your personal productivity, but when you work as a manager, you can enable others to do great things, and then as an organization, you can create something what is impossible to create by yourself.
Every engineer now is essentially working with a team of AI engineers. Hello and welcome to Thriving in Engineering podcast. In each episode, I talk to people across the software industry about AI and software development. We're not talking about the headlines, the hype, or the doom mongering. Instead, we focus on honest conversations about how AI is actually showing up in day-to-day work. What's working, what's not, and what others can learn from it. My guest today is Roman Nikolaev. He's head of technology at Cambri, a Nordic research tech company whose AI-first platform helps global brands like Nestlé and Coca-Cola test product concepts before launch. He's also the author of High Impact Engineering, a Substack newsletter focused on practical, field-tested guidance for engineering leaders. So make sure to check it out and subscribe. Roman has many years of experience building and scaling software teams. At Cambri, they started working with AI way before it became mainstream. Roman has a reputation for writing about engineering leadership with honesty and depth. And like a lot of people in the industry, he got here the way many of us did, falling in love with computers as a kid. So, Roman, we both started out making games in BASIC and tinkering with DX Spectrum and other early technology. Can you tell us how that turned into a career in engineering?
Yeah, it's very nice question. So I really like to reminisce on the old times. So started working with computers when I was maybe 9 years old. So my parents bought me my first computer. It was very bulky Soviet times machine, which had only 32 kilobytes of memory. After that, I got the ZX Spectrum, the clone of British computer, and then I got PC. So I started programming maybe when I was 12. Then gradually I moved from BASIC to C++, and then after that learned other different languages. And I graduated from applied mathematics and informatics in university, and after that started my professional career. I've been working as a professional developer and manager for about 20 years now, starting from 2003, maybe. Well, that time flies.
Yeah, that's impressive. Quick question. Can you say that the fact that your parents introduced you to computers in general, even though, these bulky, big machines that were very different from what we have now, is it fair to say that this is why you love software engineering and that's what set you up for success in the career?
Yes, I think that was a pivotal moment for me. So I've been always interested in mathematics and this kind of more focused introversial things rather than, playing football in teams. I prefer to spend time like reading and tinkering with some mechanisms. And
oh yeah, I definitely
computer was a very, very good. Computer was a very good match for me. So yeah, and then went into the programming, and it was clear for me from age of maybe 12 or 13 that I want to be a professional programmer in the future. When my career developed, I first went into started as a junior software engineer, then worked as a senior, and then suddenly I ended up as a lead developer and then as a manager. So it was an interesting turn of events when I was just offered this position when I didn't have any first-hand experience leading people. and I needed to learn these things on the fly. And after a year or so, I got promoted to the head of technology at Cambri, which is maybe similar to more familiar title CTO position. The title is different, but the scope of responsibility is pretty much the same. So leading the whole technical organization. So it's a different level of responsibility, different level of different viewpoint on the business and technology. I think it has been a very interesting journey so far.
It sounds like the memory of the transition from the senior engineer to the leadership role is still very fresh. Looking back, what do you think about this decision about moving to leadership?
I think I wish I would have made it earlier. So I think it's very rewarding to work not only with technology, but working with people more. The best part of working in these leadership roles is that you have bigger leverage. Well, one of the best things, but the thing what you can accomplish as a software engineer is limited to your personal productivity. But when you work as a manager, you can enable others to do great things. And then as an organization, you can create something what is impossible to create by yourself. Another side of this is that working with people is actually gratifying in the sense that when you see how people develop, how they grow, you also get this kind of feeling of satisfaction from the job well done, which lasts much longer than satisfaction from fixed bug or implemented features. So it stays with me for a long time.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, and to the I wish I did it earlier part for sure. How do you feel like? Well, let me rephrase this. You went through the full journey from the junior engineer to the senior engineer to the leadership role, and now you have a lot of impact, a lot of leverage, as you said. And now the whole industry is changing. So you went through a lot of changes and transformations along your career. Now everything is changing. How do you feel about what's coming and what's changing? Because clearly, I'm judging based on my experience. I see that even leadership changes in this new AI era. What do you think about that? What is your perception?
Yeah, it's a very broad question, but let me answer it from my perspective. So I think that for engineering leaders, the main change what has happened is that everything accelerated. Before, the industry we are in is not static. It has been changing. Like we talked about these bulky computers with 32 kilobytes of memory, and then we went from this to supercomputers in your pocket in just 20 years. So the industry is changing very fast, but now the rate of change is even higher. So how it personally impacts me is that I need to constantly rethink the things what worked before. So let's take our typical software development life cycle. So we have requirements, then the requirements are checked by development team, then there is a development work, then there is code review, then after that there is a validation, then if validation passes, then there is the deployment, and then the cycle continues from the beginning. So how this is changing now, for instance, code review, there is a lot of talk now in the industry how to treat code reviews. Should code reviews be done by humans? Should they be done automatically? How to streamline code reviews? Another part of the traditional development lifecycle is working with requirements. We used to use Figma prototypes, but now you can create a live application within minutes with Cloud Code or Cursor. You don't need to draw Figma in Figma for days. You can just have a working version that you can demonstrate. You don't need PRD anymore. So these changes are coming very quickly, and tooling is changing, ways of thinking is changing, and then we all, as leaders, we always need to rethink how we can keep up with the changing technology landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is an interesting question for you. We do need, again, I think we're super aligned on how we're seeing this change happening. As leaders, I think our day-to-day work changes also in a way where it's not just meetings anymore. It's not just guidance, architecture, but we get to participate in the software development process. And the way we rethink processes is by constantly looking at what's out there, what's the next hot thing this week, trying something ourselves, not just assigning people on our team, like you go and experiment with this, you do this. No, now we have to lead by example. That's my feeling. Can you say that like your day-to-day work changed because of the tooling and because of this rapid change? Do you feel the pressure of leading differently?
I think my day-to-day work, like in substance, it hasn't changed much. So my essence of my work is still about coordinating people, coordinating teams, providing clarity from the top of the organization to the individual contributors, and then getting the status from the individual contributors to the go-to-market teams, to the rest of the leadership team. So in that sense, it remained the same, but what is changing is the rate at which we are rethinking how we work. So we cannot basically stop now. The next month there will be another technology, there will be another tool, and then we need to start thinking: are we on the cutting edge of the innovation, or are we behind? So it puts pressure on me personally. I always need to be on, checking the news, checking the latest technology trends.
I saw a meme today on X. I go to sleep, I wake up, there's new Claude release. That's how how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is a strong fear of missing out.
And this fear of missing out, I'm sure you're not the one in your company who feels it. How do you think, as leaders, we can help our teams with this fear of missing out? Is there a way to help?
I think I don't know. People are different, but what I can say for myself, what helps me to stay sane in this rapidly changing world is thinking about what in the end of the day we are producing. Are we producing code, or are we producing positive outcomes for our business or society in general? If we are a mission-driven company, for example, what do we create, and what is the relation between the tooling and the outcome of our work? So tooling is changing. Tooling has been changing all the time while I have been in this software engineering industry. But what we are doing and what we are providing to our users with is the most important part. So for people who are working individual contributors role, I think it's helpful mindset shift, or maybe not a shift, maybe for many it's a natural way of thinking, but thinking about what we do from the standpoint of the change we create rather than the output.
Mm-hmm.
And the tool becomes a tool is a tool.
A tool is a tool. Yeah. Some people think that the whole profession, software engineering profession, is going to go away because, hey, Claude is so great at writing code, Codex is so great at writing code, and then they can write the PRD, they can write tests. Let's put them together to, to scope, to decide what needs to be built, to build, and then let's build the feedback loop. And it actually works in some cases. Curious what you think about the trajectory where everything is moving. Is it reasonable to even, in your opinion, is it reasonable to even imagine that AI is going to do everything and we won't need engineers?
Yeah, there are maybe two things. So I was very skeptical about AI agents when Devent was introduced. I was very skeptical that it's going to work. But 2 years later, now we have Claude agent, we have Cursor that can perform tasks autonomously. So it's really a big shift from where it started. So I cannot tell for sure what will happen in 1 year, 2 years time. So, but where we are standing now and looking at the trajectory, I would say that the software engineering profession is not going away. I can give you an analogy. So if you
Please do.
have a if your car break, you can fix your car yourself. So there are instructions on the internet. You can order the tools. You can order spare parts and fix it yourself. And maybe if you need to do it twice, it will be cheaper than going to a workshop. But most of the people, they still prefer this job done by professionals, and they don't become a professional car mechanics. So that's how I see it for the software engineering profession as well. So, of course, if you read manuals, you understand how systems work, you understand underlying technology, you can probably create your own Asana, or you can create your own mini Salesforce. But should you? For many people, I think the answer is no.
Yeah. Thank you for this analogy. That's exactly what I'm telling both to my engineers and to other leaders who ask me the same question. It's almost like you use the car repair analogy. I usually use the washing machine analogy. Like you can wash your clothes and fold them yourselves, but you still buy a washing machine. You can run from A to B. You're perfectly capable of doing that. There's a reason why you're driving a car that needs repair and so on. So yeah, again, I think we're 100% aligned. I have this idea that one shift that is happening is that everyone essentially becomes a leader now. Only that, like, the only difference is that you, as a head of engineering, you probably work with multiple teams of humans, but every engineer now is essentially working with a team of AI engineers. You have QA agent that uses browser and mobile app testing. You have another agent that works with a database, another writes ML models, and so on. What do you think about this idea? Do you agree or not? And sorry, I have broad questions. And if the answer is yes, do you think that the skills that we create while managing human teams are also applicable for the agent teams? Like, basically, can the readers of your newsletter apply the same things to managing agents?
Yeah, this is a broad question indeed. I think there are two constraints that prevent one person to be like one-person company. It's possible, but in the larger organization, there are two main constraints, I would say. The first constraint is that there is a context, business context limit. So software engineers are not fully aware of, or they are not that deep in the business relations. They don't know all customer pain points. They don't know how clients work. They don't know their workflows. So there should be someone still who interacts with clients directly. If you have a very small business where you are a CEO, software engineer, head of marketing, etc., then you can do that. But as you start scaling, it's not possible to perform by one person. So you still need someone to interact with clients and understand their needs. This is the first limitation. And the second limitation, teams of agents work very well on well-contained small code, but when system starts to grow, you need to understand intricately how it's structured, what are possible dependencies between the components, what are side effects of this particular change you are doing. So it's when you have a system running in production, it's very easy to break everything by just modifying one line of code, and in the end it would be a person who signs off on the change who is responsible for the change. It's not a bunch of agents, so we still would need a person in the loop who would understand and sign off on the change. Keeping these complex systems together, this multi-component system requires interaction between different team members that are specialists in their parts of the system. I think that's kind of puts the limitation on the one-man army idea.
Yeah. I 100% agree, but it probably works until a certain point. Just like you could get pretty far away as a one-person army pre-AI. You can just get way further now. But what about engineers, for example, in your organization, as an example, managing a bunch of agents working on not trying to have AI roam freely and rebuild half of the system overnight on its own with OpenClaw, Ralph Wiggum Loop, or another version of the same approach, but maybe just an engineer assigning tasks to an agent, reviewing the output, just like an engineering manager does, because that's what we do as well, right? We think through technical strategy, we assign things to different teams or to different people. We check back with them about what they're doing. We review the results or some metrics. That kind of works the same with AI agents. That's at least how I feel.
Yeah, we are currently experimenting with semi-automatic workflows. So we have an agent running, or we would have an agent running on the virtual hardware, and then we would set it up this way that it checks our ticketing system. If there is a task that is marked as a task for an agent, it can pick it up, ask additional questions from a task owner, and then after that start the implementation, finish the implementation, raise a pull request, and then that's where the job ends, at least for a while, until it's reviewed. If there is no feedback what the pull requests need to be rewarded, then it is being merged by a human. So that's kind of, we can call it a semi-automated workflow where we have a person who is checking the work and signing off.
Yeah, that is pretty advanced. I have been talking to someone just last week, and they are still using like copy pasting code to ChatGPT, and I think most of the teams are still like that. I would say Cambri is pretty advanced at adopting the technology.
Yeah, we are now looking into this. Literally this week we plan to run an experiment. So part of the team is having offsite in Lapland, so skiing and working at the same time. So part of the evening curriculum is to try out working with working with OpenClaw. Another aspect of this is interesting aspect of working with these agencies, data security, so that it doesn't break or it doesn't do what it's not supposed to do. That's an interesting challenge as well. Yeah, we are currently looking into this. Let's see, maybe it's if the experiment is successful, we would probably have it running in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that sounds like top of mind thing for a lot of teams these days. Here is a question for you. At Cambri, you started working with AI and ML way before it became a thing, right? Way before the ChatGPT moment when everyone realized that, oh, we should probably get on the AI train. As someone spending that many time with AI and ML, what do you think about like the pace of acceleration? Is it because of technology, or is it because just more people are finding more applications for for LLMs, for neural networks, for ML?
I think it's both. So first of all, there is a lot of interest and there is a lot of investment, both from the effort perspective, but also from the financial perspective. So it's a huge market, but also there is a lot of interest, and the technology itself is the technology itself is very interesting, I would say. So the capabilities of technologies multiplied by the financial and time investment create this kind of effect that it's advancing much faster than it was like 5 years ago, for example.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I wanted to ask you for advice, not for myself, but for maybe engineering managers who are just thinking about AI transformation. I know it's a buzzword, but it's still happening, whether we want it or not. Or maybe engineers who are working in companies that are not as far ahead as Cambri. What kind of advice you can give to them to stay relevant and to somehow manage to do your day job, because we have to, as software engineers, we have to deliver value today, right? We have to have this impact, but also learn new things given the current pace of advancements.
I think there are two things here. First thing is that, of course, you need to keep up with the technology landscape. So if you ask me today, I would say just install Cloud Code and play with it. The second thing, if we talk about the productivity perspective, if you build your AI initiative on a swamp, so to say, that it will drown. So you need to look at your software development lifecycle. You need to look at at how you work with the business requirements, how you work with other stakeholders in the company. Because if you just apply AI on top of unstable foundation, you will have very, very limited upside. It doesn't matter if you code quickly, if every other decision takes a week, then it doesn't matter. So from this kind of productivity perspective, what managers can optimize in their teams is collaboration, visibility, team culture, software development lifecycle, question their rituals, question their habits, how they did things before. And then in the broader context, look at the organizational context, how handovers are organized between the product team, if there is a product team, with the engineering team, how business receives requirements. Can we shorten this loop somehow? The biggest impact lies in shortening the loop from getting requirements or understanding the user pain to getting this in production. AI can help to shorten the journey, but the impact of it will be very limited if other parts of the journey are very long and complicated.
That is very interesting. It sounds like your advice is like fundamental, because oftentimes people recommend they go deep into tools. You just mentioned Cloud Code and the fundamentals. Do you think tools and specific techniques are not as important as the mindset, like thinking more about the foundation and building from the bottom up, or maybe I misread this?
I think it also depends on the size of the organization. If you are a single person who runs their own business, so the whole business context and customer relations are in your head, so tools become more important. But if you work in a large organization, then the other parts of the process maybe are more important. So yeah, I think the concrete techniques are important to collapse the software development part, but if everything else takes still the same amount of time, it will not matter. I, by the way, read this recent study done by GetDx. It's a company that specializes in developer experience and development metrics. So we run a study across 40 companies of different sizes. And what we found out is that with 65% of AI tooling adoption, we only have 10% of PR throughput increase. So basically what we are seeing here, that the AI adoption is quite high, but the upside is very limited. So, and the comments that the developers give us basically that everything else is so slow that it doesn't really matter if they code it in 4 days or 3.
That makes total sense. Yeah, because the speed of generating code was never an issue in my perspective. But looking at the software development piece, are there any tools or maybe techniques you find specifically useful that you can recommend? You mentioned Cloud Code, maybe.
Yeah, I think that like using MCP servers with some MCP servers connections can be useful. So, for instance, I personally tried out Figma connection, so it helped me to quickly translate exact UI requirements into the code when creating some kind of small front-end heavy application. Another MCP server I'm considering is connection to Chrome or Chromium. I think that would be very useful for running automated regression checks, for instance, in the early stage of development. If you don't want to automate it with test automation framework at this phase, but you want to do some quick checking, for instance, that could be useful. Also, you can theoretically build full workflows where you feed requirements, AI iterates on the requirements until the workflow fully works in the UI. But from my perspective, working in business-to-business environment with very high-value contracts, it's too risky. So basically, we would have a black box, but we don't fully understand how it works. So I wouldn't probably go to this fully autonomous development yet. And I think it's an interesting idea, and for smaller teams and maybe not mission-critical applications, it could be an interesting avenue to research.
Yeah, I support that. I would recommend Agent Browser. by Vercel. It's a CLI tool that uses Chrome DevTools under the hood, and it connects without MCP server. And what we've been doing, and we're a smaller team, and we're doing this for as a semi-automated process to augment QA and software engineering. But basically what works is you ask Claude Code to write a PRD, and you ask it to write acceptance criteria, and of course you review them and make sure they make sense. And then it implements, and you tell it, okay, now use Agent Browser. Just go to the browser and check that everything works according to acceptance criteria. And of course, it tells you that everything works. You go and check, something doesn't, as usual. Happens with humans as well, right? But once you're happy with the results, you can tell it, okay, now go write playwright scripts based on browser testing you've done. And then at the end of the session, you have your implementation, and you have super fast and efficient playwright scripts to, yeah, well, I think our time is running out today. I am extremely grateful for you joining our podcast today. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. And I think you gave amazing nuggets of wisdom to our viewers and listeners. And yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Alex, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.